Hello, welcome to Papa Nick's Music. I am, as always, your host, Papa Nick Lewis. And this week we are talking about one of my favorite bands. I know I say that pretty much every week, but I am a huge fan of Bachman-Turner Overdrive. I am the youngest of four kids. So when I was a kid, when I was, 8, 9, 10 years old, I really had two options in my house. I could listen to what my older siblings were listening to. My oldest brother is 7 years older than I am, so to give you an idea of that range. Or I could listen to what my parents were listening to. So I tended to listen. I tended to listen to what my siblings were listening to, and my older brother had a couple of albums that I just adored from the first moment that I heard them. And one of them was a BTO album. BTO2 was my first favorite album. It's to this day still one of my favorite albums. Slight spoiler alert there. But I love Bachman-Turner Overdrive. Dyed-in-the-wool fan of this band for 40 plus years now of my existence. And I've had this video quasi planned out for a while. I've been distracted by other things, but this week I decided to go ahead and do it because this week the drummer for Bachman-Turner Overdrive, Robbie Bachman, passed away unexpectedly. And so I've been thinking a lot this week about BTO and about the impact that this band has had on my life. So I wanted to go ahead and I was about to say I want to honor BTO with it, but I don't know how much of an honor it is to have me rank your albums. But yeah, this is the week we're going to talk about BTO. A quick note about pronunciation as I go through this. When I refer to the band, most of the time I'm going to refer to them as BTO. I will from time to time refer to them as Bachman-Turner Overdrive. When I refer to the people, when I refer to the individual members of the band who happen to have that name, I'm going to be pronouncing it Bachman. He's Robbie Bachman, Randy Bachman, and Tim Bachman were the Bachman brothers. The family pronounces the name Bachman. Canadian radio personnel pronounced it as Bachman, but when they broke in the United States, suddenly they became Bachman. So the band is known as Bachman-Turner Overdrive, but the guys are Bachmans, just as we go through. It's not that I'm having a stroke. It's a legitimate decision on my part. And as I said, Robbie was the drummer for the group. The group formed early 70s. Randy Bachman had had quite a bit of success as the guitarist and one of the primary songwriters for the band The Guess Who. He wrote These Eyes and Undone and Laughin' and American Woman, right? Most of the big hits that you think of when you think of The Guess Who, in that period anyway, were written by Randy Bachman. Burton Cummings wrote a couple of them, co-wrote a couple of them, but Randy was a dominant creative force in that band. But immediately after American Woman hit, was a huge hit for them. Probably I haven't actually researched it, so I don't know for sure. But I would be surprised if it wasn't their biggest hit. Almost immediately after American Woman had the big splash that it had, Randy left the Guess Who. There are conflicting reports as to whether he was fired or whether he quit. Was it because of artistic differences or lifestyle differences within the band? Whatever. I don't know. I'm not privy to inside information, so I don't care. But he left the Guess Who. and for a period of time did virtually nothing. I've read in interviews with Randy Bachman where he has said that he felt like he was blacklisted, and whether that is true or not, again, I don't know. But he eventually decided that if he was going to get back into the music biz, he was going to have to do it on his own. He wasn't going to be able to get any sort of management structure that would support him. He wasn't going to be able to get a recording contract or anything like that. He was going to have to build it all, start from scratch. And so he got together with another former Guess Who member, Chad Allen, who was the lead singer of the Guess Who before they replaced him with Burton Cummings. He got together with Chad Allen to form a new band. He needed some musicians, so he drafted his younger brothers, Tim, who was also a guitarist, and Rob, who was a drummer. And they formed a band called Brave Belt. Chad Allen did not last in Brave Belt for very long. They realized they needed a stronger singer, and so they recruited a guy named Fred Turner, who was a musician there in Winnipeg, I think is where they were when they were doing all of this. And they released a couple of albums as Brave Belt that did not do much of anything. And so they were getting ready to do Brave Belt 3, and somebody suggested to them that they would be better off if they just went ahead and changed their name. They were already changing the style of music. Brave Belt was kind of country rock, and they wanted to be more just straight ahead rock. And so they changed the name. They picked Bachman-Turner because 3 of the band members were named Bachman and the 4th was named Turner. They got Overdrive from a magazine that they saw in a trucking magazine that they saw at one of the truck stops that they were stopping at while they were performing as Brave Belt. They designed their cool gear logo, which Robbie designed, and they relaunched themselves as Bachman-Turner Overdrive. They launched their first album, Bachman-Turner, their self-titled debut, Bachman-Turner Overdrive, in 1973. They recorded a couple of albums a year. They were touring, playing, like 200, 250 concert dates a year, releasing a couple of albums every year. I mean, they were working like dogs throughout the mid-70s. They finally took a little bit of a break between albums 5 and 6. Yeah, between albums 5 and 6. And then after their 6th album, Randy decided he'd had enough. He left the group. They drafted, the remaining members of the group drafted a guy named Jim Clench to come in. He was another Canadian musician who had some notoriety. Jim Clench was a bassist, and so Fred Turner, who had been playing bass, switched over to rhythm guitar. And they continued working. They changed the name from Bachman-Turner Overdrive to BTO. They were officially BTO at this point. They released a couple albums, and then they kind of stopped. And then in the mid-'80s, Randy decided he wanted to work with the guys again, so he drummed the original lineup of Bachman-Turner Overdrive back together. Robbie decided to sit this one out because Tim Bachman had agreed to be the guitarist, and Robbie and Tim did not play well at this period. So they drafted Gary Peterson to be their drummer. Gary Peterson was the drummer for the Guess Who. So we've got this weird history, this revolving door in the band roster. I forgot to mention on their 3rd album. For the first 2 albums, the lineup is Randy Bachman lead guitar, Tim Bachman rhythm guitar, Fred Turner on bass, Robbie Bachman on drums. The lead vocals swapped back and forth between Randy Bachman and Fred Turner, depending on who was the primary author of the song. Fred Turner's the better singer of the two. He's got a fantastic rock voice. Oh man, I love Fred Turner. On their third album, they swapped guitarists. They let Tim Bachman go from the band and recruited a guy named Blair Thornton. And so when most people think of Bachman-Turner Overdrive, they think of that lineup. Randy Bachman, Fred Turner, Blair Thornton, and Robbie Bachman. More information probably than you wanted to have, but there we go. So we're going to rank the albums between their first album, 1973's self-titled Bachman-Turner Overdrive, and their ninth album, 1984's also self-titled Bachman-Turner Overdrive, which is more than a little frustrating. There are other releases in there. I'm just gonna ignore. There was that one that the touring band released. It's mostly a compilation, and I'm just gonna ignore it. So I'm limiting myself to these 9 albums. As always, we have the subjectivity notice. The appreciation of any art form is inherently subjective. There is no such thing as objectively good or objectively bad art. There is only art that I like and art that I do not like. There will be decisions that I make here that you disagree with, and that's okay. There will be decisions that you have made in your life that I disagree with, and that's okay. Neither one of us is right, neither one of us is wrong. We just have different tastes. And as long as we keep that in mind when we're discussing these albums, then the discussion is wonderful and fun and all of that. Neither one of us is right, neither one of us is wrong. Keep that in mind. We also need to establish the ground rules when we rank albums here at Papa Nick's Music. We focus on original. We don't do compilations, and there are a just metric shit ton of BTO compilations out there that we could pull from if we wanted to, and many of them have 1 or 2 unreleased tracks. No, we're just ignoring all of that stuff. So original albums, studio albums, so we're not doing any live albums. And again, we've got a bunch of those we could pick from. Albums, we don't do EPs. It's got to be full length. Good solid 30 minutes is my general guideline as a minimum. And then finally, they have to be primarily albums. They can't be things that have their secondary purpose as being a collection of songs. And here I'm thinking of things like Christmas albums and movie soundtracks. We don't have to worry about that here. So we're just limiting ourselves to the 9 studio albums that Bachman-Turner Overdrive recorded and released between 1973 and 1984. Cool? Cool. Now, most of my ranking videos, I do the little pop-up album cover that comes up here, because a lot of these I have incomplete collections of, and I don't want to, I'll hold up an album and then I've got the pop up, hold up an album, right? With BTO, I've got the complete collection here. The thing is, I've got all of the albums. I've got a physical copy of each one of these things. It's just I have all but one on vinyl, and I've got all but one on CD, and the but one is not the same. So I'm going to be using vinyl copies for the most part. I've got one CD that's in here. The rest are going to be vinyl, which means it's going to be interesting watching me try to line it up so that you can actually see it and I can actually see it and I don't have much glare bouncing off my lights. This will be fun. Coming in at number 9. Okay, number 9. If you are a dyed-in-the-wool BTO fan out there watching this video, I don't think you're going to be surprised at my bottom dwellers here. Coming in at number 9 is 1978's Street Action. This is the one CD because I don't have this thing on vinyl. I've looked for it on vinyl. I've never seen a copy of this on vinyl. Street Action is the first of the post-Randy Bachman BTO albums. This is the first Jim Clench era BTO album. And it's got essentially one good song on it, I'm in Love. Fred Turner song. Fred is still knocking it out of the park. The music sounds fine. It's just it doesn't have the spark that the earlier albums had. Yeah. I want a vinyl copy of it just because I want to have all of these on vinyl. It's not because I really need the music. This is plenty, and frankly, I very rarely ever listen to this thing. So, number 9, 1978, Street Action. Number 8 is the follow-up album, and this is 1979's Rock and Roll Nights. The second of the Jim Clench era albums. Not a whole lot to recommend Rock and Roll Nights either. Heartaches is a decent song. Rock and Roll Hell is okay, I guess. And okay. Those two albums were good solid C albums. If you've not watched one of my videos before, when I am thinking in terms of the value, if I'm evaluating an album, I think in terms of letter grades. C's are average, competent. They're not going to light your fire, but they're not going to make you put your head through the wall either. The farther away from C we get, the stronger the reaction. So B is something that I like, that I recommend. D is something that I don't like and I will not recommend. A is something that I really, really like and I very strongly recommend. And F is, oh my God, that's the shit that makes me want to put my head through a wall, right? These first two, these were C's. Our next two are B's. 1984's the second self-titled BTO album, Bachman-Turner Overdrive from 1984. This is the album that Randy has come back to the group. Robbie has left the group. But we've got Tim, the first album that he's been on since 1973, 74, 73. It's not a bad album. It's competent. It's produced by, technically it's produced by Bachman-Turner Overdrive, but I'm willing to bet $50. No, it's produced by Randy Bachman. And he's got a few decent songs on here. For the Weekend is okay. Lost in a Fantasy is okay. Service with a Smile is okay. Fred's songs are a little weak, relatively speaking, on this album. But it's not bad. It's good. It's worth playing. If you find it in a used record bin, a dollar bin, something like that, oh yeah, pick it up. It's worth it. It's not going to change your life, but it's not bad. My other B album, number 6, is 1975's Four Wheel Drive. Ooh, cutout bin. It's amazing how many of my albums have cutout bin notches on them. Four Wheel Drive has never really grabbed me all that much. It had one solid radio hit. The song Hey You is on Four Wheel Drive. It's got a few decent songs on it. The title track, Four Wheel Drive, is a pretty good song. Flat Broke Love is a pretty good song. Don't Let the Blues Get You Down is decent. It's just not a particularly sharp album. I don't know for a fact, but I believe that this is the beginning of the burnout. They were recording a lot, cranking out a couple albums a year, touring. Working virtually 365 days a year. And after a while, the well started getting pumped dry. And this is the point where I can tell that the well is getting pumped dry. This sounds like the stuff that they would have taken out of the album that they recorded previously, because it sounds similar to the previous album. It's just not quite as good. Yeah, that's what we've got with Four Wheel Drive. It's not a bad album. It's got a good solid B as far as I'm concerned. Bachman-Turner Overdrive the second got a B- from me. This one gets a B. It's not a bad album. I'll recommend that you pick it up, but it's not the cream of the crop. Okay, from here on, from number 5 on, we are in solid A territory, and my first A album. and it is a full A, is 1973's first self-titled Bachman-Turner Overdrive. This is a really strong album. We've got some good stuff on here. I'm reading off my screen because it's easier than reading off of the album. We've got Don't Get Yourself in Trouble, which is good. Gimme Your Money Please, which was the radio hit. The best song on here, though, the reason why I will always have a copy of this album, is the song Blue Collar, which may be Fred's best song. Oh my God, do I love this song. Oh, Blue Collar is fantastic. I'd like to remind you at 4 a.m, my world is very still. The air is fresh under diamond skies. Makes me glad to be alive. Oh man, I gave myself goosebumps. I love that song. Blue Collar. Oh. BTO. Good solid A album. Okay. Number 4. There are, I think, dyed-in-the-wool BTO fans out there watching this video who are already just throwing yourselves in front of buses and off of buildings because I have ranked four-wheel drive as low as I have. And obviously, I've got this next album, which I think most people think of as just a stinking piece of shit up here. Not just in my top 5, but... or at the top, it's in my top 5. It's number 4, and that is 1977's Freeways. Freeways is number 4? Are you fucking kidding me? Yes, Freeways is number 4. Freeways was Randy's last album with the original group. Freeways doesn't sound like any of the other albums. There are a couple of spots where that does not work to the group's benefit. Easy Groove. Is that the name? Yeah, Easy Groove. Oh my God. Seriously, you're doing a dance song? Shotgun Rider. Seriously, you're doing a country song? Shotgun Rider is weird because it's one of those I think that most people like. It's going to be the song that people will say, hey, that the BTO fans will say, okay, the album's a piece of shit, but Shotgun Rider, that's a decent album. And it's, no, it's not one of my favorites on here. My favorites on here, first off, Fred only has 2 songs on here, and they are both gold. They are gold. The first is Life Still Goes On, I'm Lonely, which is just, it's wonderful. And the second is the title track, Freeways. Both of these are fantastic songs. Randy's songs, there are a couple that are ill-advised. We've already talked about them. But Just For You is a great song. Down, Down is a great song. Can We All Come Together is not bad. My Wheels Won't Turn. I like that one, right? There's a lot of really good music on here. It's just not the straight ahead rock boogie that they'd been doing for the past 4 years up to this point. So I think it suffers in comparison as far as most fans go. But still, I'm giving Freeways a good solid A. I'm also giving a good solid A to 1975's Head On. Ooh, big head Randy. We've got big head Fred on the back, and then when it's a gatefold, so when you open it up, we've got big head Robbie and big head Blair, in the middle. And I've got 2 copies of this album because this is the one where the gatefold is still intact, but the vinyl is crap. The other copy I've got, the vinyl is good, and the gatefold has been all ripped up because whoever owned it, it's designed in such a way that if you slit the seam, it opens up into a poster of the 4 guys. And the previous owner did that, and it was the cover on that one. My other copy is just, it's a nightmare. Head On, fantastic album. Oh, I love this album. One of the things, I've complained about this before, where you watch these ranking videos. Set this down, I'm not done talking about it, but you watch these ranking videos and the person doing the ranking gets to a point where they say, well, on any given day, blah, 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 any one of these could be number 1. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Rick Beato is particularly bad about doing that. And, you know, that bugs me because, no, if you're going to rank them. If you're going to say all 5 of these are essentially the same and any one of them can be, then they're not 1 to 5. It's a 5-way tie. They're all number 5. Okay? That being said, it is really hard for me to separate Head On from my remaining 2 albums because I love this album. It is of the original, in my mind, the BTO catalog has 3 phases. We've got the original phase, which is the first album, the first Bachman-Turner Overdrive, up through Head On. After Head On, they released a greatest hits album, the best of BTO so far, which was the album that most of the friends that I had who were familiar with BTO when I was in high school, that was the album that they had. It was all the radio hits. After that best of album, they did Freeways and then essentially splintered, right? So there's the original classic years for their first 5 albums, and then the splintered years for the remaining 4, right? And of those original classic lineup albums, this was the one that I did not have. I had never seen a copy of this. I did not know that this album existed until I was in college and I saw it in a used record bin. And I pulled it up and it's like, oh, so that's where those songs came from, because there are 2 songs on here that were on that Best of BTO So Far compilation. And so I grabbed the copy, I took it home, and it was the copy, the other vinyl copy that I've got back there, where the gatefold is all ripped up. And as soon as I listened to it, it's like, oh man, this is fantastic. I love this album. This is the album that has the 2 songs that are on that Best of compilation that the casual fan might be most likely to be familiar with are Take It Like a Man and Looking Out for Number One. Looking Out for Number One is fantastic. Find Out About Love is fantastic. It's Over is fantastic. Average Man, one of Randy just loves writing these, hey, you think I'm a rock star, but I'm just an average guy songs. He's got, 1 or 2 of them on virtually every album he's ever recorded in his life. And I like them. I like the overwhelming majority of these. But I love Head On. Love this album. As much as I love this album, though, I don't know that I love it as much as number 2, which is BTO 2. This was the album. This and Yes, Fragile were my first 2 favorite albums. And to this day, they are still 2 of my favorite albums. I love this album. There's not a bad song on it. This is the album that I used in my first Perfect Album video when I was talking about what makes an album a perfect album. Because as much as I love this album, I don't really think of it as a perfect album. And it took me a while to figure out why. And the reason why is that it's all very, very good, but none of it is truly excellent. None of it makes me think, oh man, you gotta have this. It's just all really solidly, competently written, performed, produced. It's just a solid album. It's just not cream of the crop solid. It's not top of the list. It's not head and shoulders above the crowd. It is a good solid A. I can't give it an A+, right? But this is the album, if you're thinking in terms of hits, this is the album that has Taking Care of Business on it. This is the album that has Let It Ride on it. Let It Ride is one of my all-time favorite songs. Not just one of my favorite BTO songs. It's one of my all-time favorite songs. I love that song. And there's not a stinker on the bunch. I've got my list of songs that I wanted to focus on over here on my screen. Screw that. Side 1 opens up with Blown, which is one of the 2 songs on here that was written by Tim and is a solid song. I really like Blown. It's good. Welcome Home. Oh my God, is Welcome Home good. Welcome Home is one of Randy's, yeah, we're average guys, songs. Third track on side 1 is Stonegates, a Fred Turner song, which is fantastic. 4th song on side 1 is Let It Ride, and oh my God. I love Let It Ride. I hate the single edit of Let It Ride. If I'm going to listen to Let It Ride, I want to listen to the album version. I don't want to listen to the radio single. The radio single cuts out Robbie's drum solo in the middle, or not even in the middle, toward the end. He's got a bit that he does for a few measures while they start bringing the vocals back in after the extended guitar solo. And I'm not going to say that that makes the song, but taking that out of the song is like carving the leg off of a model so the dress will hang better. It's like, no. We want both of our legs. Side 2 opens with Give It Time, which is another Fred Turner song, which is fantastic. We've got Tramp. Second song, Tramp, was co-written by Randy and Robbie and is, as far as I know, the only song that they wrote together. And it's a great song. I Don't Have to Hide is the third song, which is the second Tim Bachman song on the album. Fantastic. And then we close with Taking Care of Business. Oh, I love this album. But, and I probably like it, do I like it more than Not Fragile? I don't think, see, that's hard for me to say. I think Not Fragile is the better album. I think BTO 2 has a softer spot in my heart. Not Fragile is an A+ album. Not Fragile is, if we're going to pick a perfect album out of the bunch, it's going to be Not Fragile. There aren't any skippers on here, right? I can't think of anything that would make the album better. It is, the songwriting on here is a notch above the songwriting on the previous and the later albums. So it is a superlative effort. And I don't listen to this thing in bits. I don't listen to any of these in bits and pieces, man. I do not want to listen to a couple of songs and then go on my merry way when I listen to BTO. I want the whole fucking album. So by the criteria I use in my Perfect Album series, this has to be a perfect album. This is the album that if you're just a random music fan and you've got one BTO album in your library, it's going to be this one. It's their biggest seller, I'm willing to bet. I haven't researched it, but I'd be surprised if it's not. This is the album, that has You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet on it, which I'm pretty sure is their biggest single. It's got Roll On Down the Highway, which was written by Robbie and Fred Turner. It's also got the title track, which is wonderful, Not Fragile. It's got Rock Is My Life and This Is My Song. Oh man, do I love Rock Is My Life and This Is My Song. One of Randy's I may be a rock star, but I'm just a normal guy song. It's got Freewheelin', which is Sledgehammer is fantastic. Giving It All Away is great. Rock solid album. This one, he said, as things started falling off his desk. This one probably has the softer spot in my heart because of who I was when I first listened to it, and because of the way it embedded itself into my psyche when I was a kid. This one I think is the better album. So it's not really a tie for number one, but it's as close as we can get.
What was that? So, no.
I'm sorry. I have the attention span of a mosquito. And that's how I see the albums of BTO. I love this band. Oh man, I love this band, and I was so sorry to hear that Robbie had passed this week. I've always loved listening to his drums on these albums, in these songs. He's got a distinct quality to his drumming, and it wasn't until here very recently, like within the past 10 years or so, that I finally learned what it was that made his drums so distinctive. On a lot of the songs, not every song, but on a lot of the songs, because Randy wanted it to have a more propelling sound, in addition to the regular drum track, he had Robbie overdub bongos. And they're very low down in the mix, and it's just these bongos doing a all the way through to give it that sense of movement. And it just, when you're listening to Taking Care of Business, or You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, or Roll On Down the Highway, and the drums have that kind of, it sounds like a train. It sounds like a truck going down the freeway. Oh, I love that. I love this band. I love these songs. And rest in peace, Robbie. You will be missed, sir. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for sticking it out this long. I appreciate that. If you liked the video, please click the like button. I would love it if you'd subscribe, and if you do subscribe, click the little bell notification icon so that you'll get notified when I've got new videos coming up. And again, thank you for watching, and I hope that the rest of your day is peaceful. See you soon.